We got a lot to cover today. America
Yes.
seems to be ending. The Supreme Court is trying to make that happen. We've got seven Supreme Court cases I want to go through, and we'll try to make it as non-legalese as possible. I can't stand the way lawyers write, so I try to make it simple. The one yesterday, though, I want to get your thoughts on. This is Medina versus Planned Parenthood of South Atlantic. It was asking whether a person can sue their state for denying Medicaid funds to Planned Parenthood for reproductive health access. I want to hear your take on this.
Yes. So I feel like that one got lost in the mix because there's other terrifying decisions that came out today. And you wrote an incredible piece everyone should go read. If anyone wants to link it, actually, that'd be great. We can pin it. You wrote a really good piece breaking down all of the decisions of the summer that all come out today. Or many of them came out today. But yes, yesterday there was a Planned Parent, a case regarding South Carolina trying to basically prevent Medicaid funding to go to Medicaid patients to use Planned Parenthood
Yeah.
for everything from birth control and like cancer screenings. And as we all know, because I know you're all very smart, no federal funds go to abortion, thanks to a lot of Democrats who folded in like the 90s. But even though that is already the case, Republicans are obsessed with the idea of defunding Planned Parenthood. And so the fact that this worked in South Carolina is really bad news. I'm going to take a sip of a drink. Oh, it's really bad news. There's no way to sugarcoat it.
Yep.
It is bad news because it basically means that, as your piece, foreshadowed, all of what we're going to probably see happen is a lot of red states are going to be defunding Planned Parenthood, and it's going to be, there's going to be a precedent. And as Jessica Valenti, who has a really good Substack, pointed out, this is also a way. Like, what will replace Planned Parenthood, right? When these clinics close because patients can't go, the goal is to replace them with crisis pregnancy centers, which are fake clinics. And so if you have seen I've done some, whenever I've gone to a swing state, I'll find a fake clinic and I'll go and I'll do a video from there because I think it's so important to talk about how these are fake clinics. Like, calling them crisis pregnancy centers is the word that the right wants to use, but these are literally religious institutions, okay? They wear lab coats, they pretend to be doctors, and they're not. And they lure women. If you're in one of those states, or even in New York, they're in blue states too, abortion, you will be brought to, yes, Planned Parenthood, but it will suggest also crisis pregnancy centers. And what they do is dissuade you from getting an abortion. And they can't even give you birth control. Like, they don't even have, because again, they're not doctors. So they're fake clinics. What's going to be happening, it's already happening, is like millions of dollars of taxpayer money is going to be funneled to these religious institutions. So it's just one more kind of like like a thread in this, like, with the overarching goal of just replacing so much of our institutions
And
religious.
this is life and death. I mean, it's literally life and death. We've written about this extensively, but you look at the states. 15 of the top 16 states that have the highest
Yeah.
maternal and infant mortality are red states that deny reproductive health access, and 12 of the top 13 states with the lowest infant and maternal mortality have immense access to reproductive health. And it's not like a small disparity. You are three times more likely to die in Mississippi than you are in Massachusetts. Three times more likely. It's absurd. It's just mind-boggling that this is, and this is where I think it's so important that we have these conversations. I'm already seeing in the comments that people didn't know crisis pregnancy centers existed. I don't even like calling them that. These fake
Fake
clinics.
clinic. Just call it fake clinic.
Yeah, these fake clinics exist, and they call them crisis pregnancy to make it seem like, oh, in an emergency, we're here to cover
Yeah.
for you. But in
Horrible.
actuality, they're there to exploit you, which makes it even, more damning and more disgusting.
It's so fucked up.
And it's going to spread to other states too, Liz. Like, this is what they do, right? They get to the Supreme Court on one thing, and by the way, I call this structural eugenics because you're killing women. It's structural eugenics. You're making a structure for it. And this is not new. There's a case from 1922 or 24, I think. It's called Buck v. Bell, which essentially allowed the sterilization of Black people, Black
And
women, Black
disabled
men,
people. Yeah.
and disabled people. And before it was finally outlawed, not through Supreme Court, by the way, so it's still valid Supreme Court precedent. more than 10,000 Black people have been forcibly sterilized, and this is eugenics, and that's the same playbook being applied here. And I think we need to recognize it and call it out. Um,
Yeah.
yeah,
And
not
speaking
great
of
stuff.
eugenics, I mean, just to and let's keep going, but just the disabled seniors who were arrested at the Capitol. I'm
Right.
sure everyone has seen these images. Like that to me is also eugenics, right? Like you're zip tying, a person who's quadriplegic. Like there's no fucking reason this person can't even run away from you. And you're arresting people who just want the right to live. Really,
Yep.
that's all they want. They're not like asking for any. They're like, please let me be alive.
Yep.
And this is a really, yeah, I feel like eugenics is at the core. I mean, we know is at the core of Trump's mindset in so many different ways. And it's at the root of a lot of his, his isms, right? Like against Black people, against disabled people. Like he literally thinks that some people should not exist and are like subpar human beings. Yeah. And it's at the core of like so much, it's like not that complicated. And feel like every day they just show it more and more.
No, and the words we choose matter, and I think we need to call that out for what it is. And what you mentioned earlier about the Democrats, I mean, look, about Democrats capitulating in the '90s, and that's why we have restrictions on abortion right now. I ranted about this the other day. That one, we are in part in this situation now because we had a Democratic president, House and Senate majority, and yes, they were slim, but that's the point that you have a
Yeah.
majority, and we fail to do things like codify Roe. About disability rights, there are Democrats in Congress right now that last time Trump was in office, they tried to pass legislation to gut the Americans with Disabilities Act that would have prevented people with disabilities the right to sue if they were discriminated against. And this is Democrats passing this. So it's like,
Mm-hmm.
well, what the hell do you expect us to do when the people who are supposed to protect us from this
Yeah.
are engaged in it in the first place? Um,
Yeah. Yeah. And that's why wins like Zoran in New York City give me so much hope because we don't have to capitulate. We don't have to do this like bullshit centrist shit to win elections. And
yeah,
actually, yeah. And he did really well with men. That was my favorite thing. He was leading with male voters.
that blew my mind. He did better
Yeah,
with men
yeah,
than
yeah.
women. That blew my mind. That was amazing. I think that was a first, actually. I mean, he did well with women as well. Don't get me wrong.
Sure.
For him to do as well as he did with men was pretty awesome.
Yeah.
Um,
100%.
let's talk about this birthright citizenship
Yeah.
case.
Go for it. Break it down for us.
So basically, this is Trump's attempt to end birthright citizenship, and just so you understand what that is for the viewers, the U.S. Constitution, the Supreme Court has long held that if you're born in this country, you're a U.S. citizen. Not super complicated, pretty straightforward, and it's been upheld by the Supreme Court post Civil War that the Fourth Amendment also applies here. That if somebody is born in the U.S., they are a U.S. citizen. Period. This is a precedent that the Supreme Court has upheld for the last 150 years, like nearly. Trump, first day in office, January 20th, 2025, signs an executive order saying that, nope, we're doing away with that. Well, obviously, CASA sues him. It goes to the Supreme Court. And the Supreme Court didn't answer the question about birthright citizenship. What they did answer, though, is still a major victory for Trump. And that is that a district court can't issue an injunction that is federal in scope. In simpler terms, there are 12 districts. If they issue an injunction, it only applies to that district, not the rest of the country. And the reason why this is so stupid and asinine is because we're talking about federal law. We're talking about a federal impact, and it should apply the same across the country. But what this ruling is basically saying is that unless every district sues and wins on every single district, then the same federal law could apply to you in one part of the country and not another part of the country. And then the question is, where does this end up? Could it be that, well, we can discriminate against women in Virginia, but not in Maryland, or in Virginia, but not in California because they're in different districts? It's asinine, and it can apply to basically every single scenario. And what my fear is, and I'll shut up at this point, is that this is going to set a precedent for his other executive orders as well. That those are illegal or unconstitutional can't just be stopped by a federal judge. Now you have to have it be stopped by 12, 13 federal judges in every single district, making it that much more difficult, that much more expensive, that much more exhausting, that much more distracted from protecting our basic rights. That's why this is so scary.
Wow. And do you want to talk about the dissent? Sotomayor, I think spoke to that, and
Yeah,
and even I think again, their dissents are always like,
I know. It's
but
so
hers
good.
was, yeah, just talking about. So this could mean you could take away the right to bear arms, right? Like
Right.
anything is on the table.
Well, I'll point out Amy Coney Barrett. She's so smug.
Yeah.
Uh, she goes, the universal injunction was conspicuously non-existent for most of our nation's history. I know, Amy. So was the right to vote for women. So was the right to vote for black
Yeah.
people.
And
What are
we're
you
white
talking about?
men. Yeah, like
Like,
every the
how is that
majority
an
of
argument?
people.
Like,
Yeah.
it's so stupid. But Ketanji Jackson had a phenomenal response. She goes, the court's decision to permit the executive to violate the Constitution with respect to anyone who is not yet sued is an existential threat to the rule of law. Justice Sotomayor, this is a little bit longer one, but I want to read it. She says, no right is safe in the new legal regime that the court creates. Today, the threat is to birthright citizenship. Tomorrow, a different administration may try to seize firearms, just as you were saying, from law-abiding citizens or prevent people of certain faiths from gathering to worship. The majority holds that absent cumbersome class action litigation, courts cannot completely enjoin even such plainly unlawful policies unless doing so is necessary to afford the foreign parties complete relief. The holding renders constitutional guarantees meaningful in name only for any individual who is not a party to the lawsuit. And so that's exactly it, right? That if you are specifically party to a particular lawsuit, you're screwed. And that's
Yeah.
fundamentally the problem right now. That's why it's such a scary thing. And this is, again, going to be used for more executive orders that he's going to send down and create even more discord for everyone.
Well, so basically state rights on everything.
Yeah.
It's just we're reverting back completely to that.
States' rights as long as it doesn't benefit people, right? Because now they're also discriminating against those states that are trying to protect abortion care, for example. They're trying to restrict them, not trying to pass a national abortion ban as well. So it's just arbitrary. I think your earlier point was even more accurate, Liz. It's eugenics. They want straight white men to have the power and the money, the access, and everybody else can basically go to hell.
Yeah.
Um, there were two victories in this court that I think I want to point out just because it's not all horrible.
Yeah.
Both of them surprised me. Have you had a chance to look at the Kennedy versus Braidwood Management one?
Is that the telehealth?
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. So basically the ACA allowed a federal task force to mandate that insurance companies cover preventative health services. Republicans wanted to gut that because they're insane and don't realize how many people's lives are saved due to preventative health. And the Supreme Court, by some miracle, ruled 6-3 that no, this is okay. We're going to allow this to be covered. I
Mm.
mean, I don't know what to say. It kind of caught me off guard. I didn't expect that.
You were surprised that they were actually not trying to kill people.
Yes, exactly. Yes, I was surprised. Did you know? I learned recently they have this is the fourth time they brought this to the Supreme Court and lost all four times. But
Mm.
they have voted more than 100 times in
Yeah, I
Congress
saw that.
with JCA. That blew my mind.
Yeah. And yet, yeah, and again, like that's just a reminder. Yeah, so in your piece, you talk about the fact that they've tried to repeal the ACA 100 times in 100 different ways. And again, it just goes to show what their priorities are.
Yeah,
Oh my God, but they lost. Okay, woohoo! They
yeah, they
lost
lost.
on one
Big win,
thing.
big win. The next one is the FCC one, and there's another simple one. That there's a small addendum to your bill that allows the government to expand telephone and broadband access to rural parts of the country. And this just shows you how sociopathic Republicans are, because
Mhm.
this money helps their constituents more than anyone. It gives
Yeah.
them access to small businesses. It gives them access to start up a company, to get healthcare access for their kids to learn. And they said, no, we would rather listen to our billionaire donors and tell poor people, go after yourself. We're not going to help you. And
Mhm.
fortunately, the FCC won. I guess lawyers with FCC won, even though the current FCC chair probably didn't want this. But again, a huge win. But it just goes to show you that Republicans don't actually care about their own constituents either. They're not going to care about anyone else as well.
Yeah. What do you think is like, or wait, sorry, you wanted to go through a second one, right?
No, I'm good. That was it.
No. I mean, what do you think of, again, I was looking at this protest that happened at Capitol Hill, and only 25% of Americans support the big beautiful bill and like all of these cuts to Medicaid, which obviously makes, well, not obviously, like I get
Yeah.
why you don't want to lose like life-saving care and just like free money.
Yeah.
Um, but what do you think like, how are they messaging this in a positive way? Like, are you watching the Fox News and like the Manosphere and like, how are they even spinning this in a way that is convincing their own base that this is good?
It's the way they've always done, is through disinformation and
Yeah.
misinformation. And so on one hand, they're not talking about the healthcare being cut in any kind of meaningful way. They're talking about how there is so much government waste, fraud, and abuse that what we're cutting is not actual care; it's all abuse that these illegals are taking on. That's why we got to round up these illegals, because they are taking our healthcare. They're taking the spots in the hospitals. We're trying to get rid of all this so that you can get the care you need. That's one. And two, they're saying, and this is going to save us so much money that we're going to be able to cut taxes, billions in taxes. And these Democrats, these socialists, these communists, they don't want us to cut taxes. Never mind that these taxes are for the people making millions and billions of dollars a year. It's
Right.
not coming to working class folks. And so that's the explanation. And I'm sure you get this on social media all the time, where some right wing MAGA will say, well, you're clearly a communist that wants to pay more taxes. And it's like, I don't make $20 million a year. So this doesn't apply to me, but also you don't know what communist means either.
Yeah.
But that's kind of the world we're in. That's how they're spinning it. And that's why it's so dangerous. And that's why my pitch has always been, y'all, whether you're conservative or liberal or moderate, this is class warfare. This is billionaires trying to get an extra, ounce of blood out of us. And they will kill us if it means their stock portfolio goes up by a quarter of a point.
Yeah. Yeah. I wrote about this recently. It's like the Santa Claus theory. Do you know about this? It's like
No, tell me more.
essentially in the 80s, again, when Democratic policies were very popular about healthcare and giving you services for the taxes that you're paying.
Yeah.
The right figured out, like, okay, we have to counter that. Like basically their view of what we're doing is just giving out free shit, and that's a really hard message to counter, right?
Yeah.
So they're like, fuck, what do we basically? They're like acting like Santa Claus, where they're just giving you stuff. So of course you're gonna like Santa Claus, and so they figured out that the equivalent for the right was, well, we'll give you tax cuts, right? So tax cuts became the equivalent, and everything you're saying is exactly right. I think what we're seeing on our feeds is cuts to Medicaid, seniors, people with disabilities dying, people, with cancer. Like, again, all of us could fall in that category. All of us, if we're lucky, fall into that category, right? Like, but they are being fed, this is more money for you, right? Like, we're, and same thing with immigration. They don't focus, someone commented, like, I just think about those toddlers in court alone. Those are the images that we're seeing. That's what's motivating our thinking. But they're getting, you'll get more jobs. Your life sucks. And which a lot of people's lives are difficult right now. And so we'll fix it by just, getting rid of illegals or whatever that means.
What do women tell you though? Like when you talk to women, like as a woman, when you talk to other women about conservative women in particular about reproductive healthcare access, like men are dumb, men are stupid, men have no idea how a woman's body works, but women know how a woman's body works. So like when you talk to conservative women and be like, hey, this is not just about abortion, it's about a lot of different things that we need as healthcare. What's the response to you?
Such a good question. I think that there's that classic binary, right, of pro-choice and pro-life. And a lot of polls will just be like, are you pro-life or you're pro-choice?
Yeah.
And it's pretty even. It's 50-50, although there's been a rise in pro-choice identification since they got rid of Roe, because people saw, like, wait, what the fuck? Like, but if you ask them, would you get an abortion? They say no. Would you want to tell someone if they can get an abortion, and they say no. So they think so they identify as pro-life because they wouldn't get an abortion, which, again, as many people will probably point out, no one thinks they're going to get an abortion. No one, is like, I definitely get an abortion. I'm just, that's how I identify. Like, not no one, but like, it's not a pleasant experience, and it's not a pleasant situation to be in, right? And so no one really thinks about that. But that being said, I think there are people who are very, again, morally, physically, whatever it is, opposed to it. But they actually aren't pro-life in that political sense that the right wing is pro-life, or the politicians that they're voting for is pro-life, which is like, not only like, is it not okay with me? Which, by the way, a lot of these fucking Republicans, they paid for abortion, so that's not even true. But like, I don't want other people, to have abortions. That's actually actually like a minority of Americans.
Yeah.
And so I think that's one of the issues. I also think that a lot of conservative there's all this talk about the Turning Point USA Women's Conference. I don't know if that was like in your feed, but I went to like the first one like 10 years ago because randomly I wasn't friends with Charlie Kirk, but like Charlie Kirk was smaller at the time and I was at Vox. And so I think I even had him on. Like I interviewed him, like it was still kind of like early days well, MAGA wasn't a thing yet, right? Like it was just percolating and even he was like not even on board. But that being said, I went and I got kicked out. But I did talk to a lot of women when I was there. And one of the things that we agree on 90% of things. That's number one. And that's what people don't necessarily like to hear. Or again, it's not going to get us a lot of views and clicks and like engagement and like people being like, yeah, like you actually agree on 90%. Not all of Republicans, but like a lot of them. Yeah. And with these women, we could connect on so many different things. But when it came to feminism, I think, and just like, again, abortion and reproductive rights, like, first of all, there's a straw man argument that the right is really good at creating, that we're somehow against stay-at-home moms, which are working moms, by the way, they fucking work, but inside the home, we sort, again, it's the sort of Phyllis Schlafly thing, right? That we're against, traditional roles or like, when we're for choice. And the reason why you can make a choice is because of feminism. But the right has set that up really well. And there's a thing with like being a victim. Like they view sort of like a lot of not just talks about feminism and equality in terms of gender, but also racism in terms of like you're focusing on what's wrong. And like there's a little bit of a like mindset on the right that's almost like you shouldn't. And I think this doesn't just apply to politics. I think that's how they like, whatever. Like, no, I don't want to talk about them like they're the other, but I think many of them approach life totally differently, where they're like, just focus on a little like toxic positivity, like just focus on the positive, man. Like, like things are great. And you're like, are they? Like, I feel like they could be better. Yeah. And some of it is just like, how we think, Yeah. That's my take on all
By the way,
that.
if you're just tuning in, speaking with the amazing Liz Plank, if you're subscribed to me, please subscribe to her as well. It's like phenomenal content. I love your piece the other day, and I want to talk about it right now, actually, put you on the spot, about the male loneliness crisis. I got to find a quote of yours that just kind of struck me. The whole piece is amazing, but it talked about how this is not about blame, it's about accountability. Can you kind of elaborate on that a little bit?
How much time do you have? I have a real problem with the way that the discourse around the male loneliness crisis is like framed. And if you do too, press a heart and like leave a comment because I'm really curious. I think this could be like an entire live. But I think that very often the subliminal message in a lot of these conversations is that it's like women's fault or kind of responsibility, right? That because men are expected to have empathy for women because of sexism, the binary, we kind of like use the same framework and we're like, well, you should have empathy for men too. And like, why don't we have the same empathy for women and gay people and, people of color than we do for men? And it's like, well, because you built the system and like you're in power. Like not only you built it, but like, I can't even get rid of patriarchy on for me. Yeah. Like women are already trying to do it for us and like for our own survival and we can't do it. Yep. So like the idea that somehow like female empathy for men and the loneliness crisis would somehow transform society is like it's actually the reverse. Like male empathy for women has the power to transform society because men are in charge, right? Like, so that's why it's very often in these conversations, because we're not used to talking about masculinity, we only have sort of the framework of gender with women. And so we just apply it to men and it doesn't work because it's like women aren't not doing well because of like a crisis that was just like that just happened, right? Like men have deliberately and actively like oppressed women with laws and policies and real infrastructure. And I'm not saying that like men don't have problems that are caused by women, but on a like structural level, like there's no group of women who are like successfully, right? Like stripping rights away from men and like
Right.
discriminating against them and oppressing them. And even if you look at something like education, which is often where a lot of men's rights activists will go to, they'll say it's so feminized and like girls do better in school. And it's like, and you know, because boys don't have models, and it's like, then that's because there's no male teachers. Like, and we want come and be a male teacher. Like,
Yeah.
women want help. Women want better salaries, you know, in teaching, so that it attracts more men at the end of the day and helps you. But like, even that, it's almost as if, because it is malicious, right? Sexism, there's like an intent with it, right? Like
Yeah.
there's an intent to belittle. We sort of sometimes apply that to the conversation with men when like that's not exactly right. And I'm not saying again that there's no personal feelings of maliciousness like of women towards men, like, and we can talk about
Not
that,
much the
but
structural aspect
it's
of it.
not structural. Yeah, it's so it's I get very frustrated with the framing of it. I also feel like there's a lack of credit that's given to women, and particularly Black women and scholars that have created all of this scholarship around, and that it's allowing a lot of men who talk about masculinity now, which we're very happy that they're doing, to talk about the, like, even the word masculinity, like the fact that you can examine your own gender and how you're affected by it is because of women like Audre Lorde and Bell Hooks and Angela Davis.
Yep.
And a lot of these guys, I think what you're, you know, that sort of, that stuff you're missing in that conversation is because that their discourse isn't grounded in that
Yeah.
feminist scholarship.
Yeah.
And so that's sort of, I mean, I have so much
I
more
love
to
it.
say, but what do you think? What do you think when you see conversations about the male loneliness crisis? What do you,
You know, I'm honestly confused by it. Like, I'm
yeah.
confused by it because I was fortunate to be raised in an environment where like feminism was not a bad word. It was like, duh. Like why is this a problem? Like why are we even
No.
talking about this in any kind of negative way? And it was this like level of empowerment and equity and gender equity and yes. And by the way, I grew up in like an observant Muslim household,
Mm,
and feminism was presented to me as yes, part of your life is recognizing the equity and equality and empowerment of women, not as like a put me up on a pedestal because I did something nice, but as basic human decency. And I think I was fortunate to have that, and the guys that I hung out with and that I still hang out with to this day, we were fortunate to have male role models and female role models who exhibited that. And so, when I see the male loneliness, crisis, I kind of akin it to the crisis pregnancy centers, like kind of a made up
mm.
issue. It's like a self inflicted wound here, and
Yeah.
I tell guys, like, if you really are feeling lonely, there's a very simple way. Go and serve your community. Get involved in your community. You don't need to go
Hmm.
to a women's shelter. Just go and do something productive in your community. And I
For
promise
other
you, it will
men.
go away. For other men, even, right? And I
Yeah.
promise you, it will go away. You will build friendships. You will recognize human interaction from, behind a computer screen. And you're
Hmm.
going to recognize that a lot of this is, I think of this study done. You'll see where it's going with fleas. Okay. Fleas can jump extremely high, right? Like if a human could jump the equivalent of a flea, we could jump 600 feet in the air, right? It's crazy.
What?
Yeah, fleas can jump for their height. Fleas can jump extremely high, and so what they did was they took these fleas that could jump like insanely high, and they put them in this jar that was exactly like 18 inches tall, right? And they would jump, hit their head, and then fall back down. Jump, hit their head, fall back down. Jump, and this went on for a couple of weeks.
Yeah.
Those fleas then had babies, and the babies that were born would jump just a tiny bit lower than where they would hit their head. So it's like, oh, they learned that that's going to hurt. Let's not do that, right? Then they did something really
Wow.
interesting. Then they take those fleas out of the jar and said, okay, now jump. Well, they didn't say it to them. They had them jump, right?
I wish
Because
we could
fleas don't
talk to
understand
fleas.
English. Not that I swore.
Not
Yeah,
yet.
we could talk to fleas. And then they had them jump, and they would not jump higher than 18 inches. No matter what, even though the jar was gone, that's the highest they would jump because psychologically they'd convince themselves, this is my prison. I can't go any higher than this. Even though they were capable of jumping 7, 8 feet in the air, that's the highest that they went. And I feel like a lot of the male loneliness, crisis is exactly
Mhm.
that. It's this self-inflicted, woe unto me, the world is against me. Forgetting what this point you made. I'm going to read this quote from you because this is the part I loved more than anything else. He said, because patriarchy isn't some abstract cloud that descended on humanity, it's a structure, a series of choices that men have made a long historical project upheld by institutions where men still dominate government, religion, media, medicine, tech, finance. This isn't about blame, it's about responsibility. And to me, that's exactly what I see when I see that flee make the choice, not jump any higher. Like you've convinced yourself that you're a
Yeah.
victim, when in reality, you have so much more power. If you just get your head out of you could be much more effective about it. So that's kind of the way I
Yeah.
look at it. And maybe it's not the healthiest way to mock the men who are going through this, but that's kind of how I feel right now.
I mean, I love what you just said, and it makes me think. So I spoke at there was a fatherhood summit in New York City a couple weeks ago, and I was in this kind of, I was set up on a fireside with Gary Vee, who I was like surprised. I was like, okay, like I've never heard him talk about masculinity per se, and it was kind of a weird, like it was kind of like interesting because yeah, doesn't talk about these issues, but one of the things that he kept harping on was like we're coddling too much. And he wasn't saying we're coddling men because he kind of didn't want to touch either. I know he kind of didn't want to name genders, which was, his choice. And I kept thinking about that. And I wondered, I also know that women and men are different and nurture and nature both like, but do men respond? I think women respond to empathy to change, but don't men kind of need like discipline? Like a lot of the things, and again, not that they're at odds, by the way, but a lot of we had Scott Galloway on the podcast, and a lot of the things that he says is, and a lot of, it's out there, it's like men are vaping, they're on their phones, they're doing video games, and they're watching porn. Like they're kind of like aimless, right? And I don't know if empathy is going to get them out of
Many,
their head.
many
I think you need to like, hey,
boys, yeah,
get the
boys.
fuck out of bed. Like,
You're right. Boys need
like
structure. Yeah, boys need
that's the
structure.
thing.
Um,
Yes.
girls do it too. Don't get me wrong. I'm not trying to say that girls don't need, like they do.
100%.
But like I'm telling you, like we've got two boys and a girl, and she first of all runs the household. It's hilarious. The boys are scared to death of her, and I love it. But like with the boys,
Older?
no, she's the youngest. That's the crazy part. She's the 9-year old. She's got a 12-year-old and a 16-year-old, and she absolutely dominates and dictates and control. And the thing is,
Oh, that's
she's the
sad.
best organizer. She is by far the best organizer. We went on a family road trip, and she had everything organized at 9 years old. I'm like, I'm 40. I'll be 43 soon. I'm not this well organized as she is. It's
It's
crazy.
crazy.
So she's got a natural gift there. But with the boys, like with her, if I'm like if I slightly raise my voice, it's the waterworks, right? Like I have to be very different in how I get her to do things I need her to do. But with the boys, it's actually a little bit different because they know that if I lower my voice, that's when they're really in trouble. Like I can raise my voice and yell at them a little bit, and they're like, yeah, whatever, it's his dad being dad. But if I'm like, hey, enough.
I felt it.
Yeah, it's like that's when they get into action. And I will also say this. We talk about like male role models. Like I will also say this, like they see me exercising on a daily basis. They know I sit in front of a computer for way too many hours a day, but they see me deliberately go for a run, deliberately go lift weights, deliberately go play basketball, deliberately drag them away from their phones and lead by example. And if they don't, if they don't do what I tell them to do, then they absolutely will do what I show them as well. James Baldwin said this beautifully. He goes, I have
Yeah.
often seen children disobey their elders. I have never seen children fail to mimic them. And so that's
So good.
really where I tell the folks my age who've got young children or children who are still kind of in their developmental stages, is that if you want your kids to do better and be better, you gotta lead by example. It can't just be by telling them or lecturing them or threatening them with punishments. You got to get your ass out there. Like I want my kid, I want him to be healthy, and I've challenged him to run every day this summer. And guess what? I'm getting my butt up out of bed at 6:30 in the morning and running with him because
Wow.
I would rather him have that be his mentality than stuck on his phone for 14 hours a day.
Totally. What are you as a dad, like, are you worried about your sons? Like, are there certain things that you do in terms of, again, not just the loneliness crisis, but just like the manosphere and like the radicalization of men? And I know they're not, that old, they're not teenagers yet, but like, what would it look like?
No, one's 16. Yeah.
Oh, really? Oh my
Yeah.
gosh. In the thick
Yeah.
of it, in the
Yeah.
thick of it.
Yeah. You have to be. worried about that. You have to be cognizant of
Yeah.
that. And if you're not, you're in trouble, right? It's like, in law school, they teach you that if you ever think you don't need to look up the law, stop because you're about to commit malpractice. And like no matter
Mm.
how well you know it. And so for me, it's always a trust but verify. And so we have these conversations about sex, drugs, and alcohol, not as a reaction, but as a proactive measure. Like, hey, here's the healthy way to live life. And
Yeah.
here's the healthy way to have these conversations so that you're not looking up pornography to understand what sex is. Fathers need to have these conversations with their boys. Otherwise, they're going to get this information from less than kosher places and it's not going to be good. It's
Yeah.
destructive. The studies show that when children watch porn and get addicted to porn, it rewires their brain. It makes them less empathetic. It makes them dehumanize women. It makes them more abusive. It makes them more destructive. There's nobody who wins from this.
Yeah.
And so it's critical to me. It was critical to me, and this is something that I got from my dad because he had these conversations with us when we were very young as well. Is that remove the shame aspect of it and just
Mm.
have an honest conversation. And when you can do that and build that trust, what I found and what I've been very fortunate, my wife and I both, is that they will come to us when a problem starts so that we can
Oh.
redirect them quickly as opposed to a hair on fire. Okay, what do we do now? The damage has already been done. We've been very lucky
Sure.
in that space so far.
Wow. Well, you've been a safe space for them, and I think that's so true with, with I think it's a tough thing with parenting because you immediately want to tell them what to do or tell them, have judgment or,
Yeah.
those things. And I think you're just really doing things right if they're coming to
No, we're
you
lucky.
with
Yeah, we're
issues.
lucky.
What do you think about one of the cases that was decided by the Supreme Court was around porn
Yeah.
and, setting an age limit basically for people to use porn sites.
Yeah.
What's your take? Because I feel like this is it is a huge plank of Project 2025.
Yeah.
They want to ban porn
Yeah.
entirely. So, but at the same time, it's sort of an interesting issue because I feel like both sides kind of have a reason. They're different reasons.
Yeah.
But yeah, where do you fall on that
So
decision?
yeah, so this is the Free Speech Coalition versus Ken Paxton, the AG of Texas, who I have my severe issues with. He's a sociopath on a lot of things. So the
Oh yeah.
background, the question is: do states requiring age verification for pornographic consumption violate free speech? And the ruling was the majority 6-3 held that this bill, HB 1181, simply requires adults to verify their age before they can access speech that is obscene to children. What was really fascinating about this is that the liberals who dissented said, look, we agree there was this principle to protect children from explicit materials. We agree that they don't have any constitutional right to view explicit material. And we agree that Texas has a compelling interest to protect children from explicit material. So, like, the weird thing about this is that they were in full agreement on these principles as well. Where they disagreed was, is this the best way to do it? And what the
Uh,
liberal argument was is that the way you're doing it, you're not just you're protecting children. Sure, we agree with that part of it, but you're also restricting adults who are above 18 who should have access. Now, I think it's a much more nuanced conversation. We can go into the legal aspect of it. There's like a strict scrutiny and a standard scrutiny. It's really boring on legalese, but that was fundamentally their argument. It wasn't that, and it's being spun by the right as, liberals want kids to watch porn. No, that's not what this is at all. Like, they explicitly write in there, we agree with the majority on these points. Where we disagree is how
right.
do we parse this out? And I think there's an argument to be made there as well, because at the end of the day, as adults, people want their privacy. People want to be able to live their lives without somebody watching over them. And the liberal argument is, for as much as you talk about smaller government and, not having Big Brother watching over you, you're basically enabling that right here. And so we'll see where it goes, and maybe states will be able to develop more refined pieces of legislation. But I just want to be clear: this bill was not about liberals saying kids should watch porn and conservatives saying no. It was about how do we make sure that adults are not restricted in a way that
Yeah.
violates their free speech.
But that's how they're gonna spin it on Fox
Yeah.
News. The Chiron is gonna be crazy.
Yeah.
And as Danica mentioned, which I wanted to bring it up to, Mike Johnson watches porn with his son. Or no, they each have an app to monitor
Creepy.
how much porn they're watching. Like, so it's like a buddy system, and so that they don't like watch
That's
porn and
crazy.
masturbate.
Well,
It's so weird.
it's bizarre. That's not
Yeah.
that I don't know what to say about that. I will say this: the data shows that the states that lead in pornographic consumption every single year are all red states.
Yeah, 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 yeah,
Year
yeah,
after
yeah.
year are red states that lead the country in this,
And
which is
wasn't it's bizarre, and wasn't there a day, I think it's in that, yeah, that book about, is it Everybody Lies? Anyway, it's this guy that looked at all Google searches and just did like so much fun analysis of it. And yeah, the most anti-gay states have the most gay porn
yeah,
watches.
yeah. I mean, well, who is saying that the RNC is like a grinder convention
Yeah,
every
it shut down. I mean, it was like not verified, but there was a lot of people who said it shut down.
See, this is where I'm like, this is what I don't understand about conservatives. That if you have your definition of morality, good for you. Where you get the idea that it makes sense to enforce morality on somebody else, like that's no longer morality. Like, what are you trying to
Yeah,
at that point, right? I mean,
yeah, yeah.
I don't drink alcohol. If I enforce that upon you, how does that make me more moral? It doesn't. It just
Yeah,
makes me
yeah, yeah,
a
yeah.
sociopath, right? It makes me a
It just
psychopath.
makes you an asshole. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Like that's literally the extent of it. I don't understand how they don't get that.
Yeah,
Um,
I mean, order is such an important part of conservative, again, like that mindset, you know? It's like, even to help, I mean, it doesn't help me, but it, because one of the decisions was around, basically any kid now can just opt out of any teaching that about LGBTQ people, right? So like there could be a teacher being like, gay people are humans, and then there's a kid gonna be like, I don't want to be here for
yeah,
this, which is crazy.
yeah,
But that is like, yeah, they again, they think that like they're so threatened by the existence of gay people or gender non-binary people, or again, women who don't need a man and are unmarried, right? Like because it disrupts this like hierarchy and this order of things.
yeah,
And that they think that it's full chaos, right? Like
yep,
that's why they're even like, there's a whole, I don't know if you've seen this in your feed, but a lot of like blue hair, like that they're calling us like blue ugly, like blue hair liberals, right? That we all
right,
have like blue hair. And even that, I'm like, who cares? What
yeah,
do you like? Obviously, it's not true. Both of us have brown hair,
yeah.
but and if you do have blue hair, sound off in the comments.
Good
But
on you. Yeah,
like, it's just such a weird insult. It's like,
yeah.
okay, why does that matter to you, right?
I
Like,
don't know if
what?
people
And
think.
yeah, it's like a fear that if people have blue hair, then like, what is hair? I don't know, like what is anything? And I think that is like, yeah, they're just very afraid of I think something that progressives in general are feel more at ease with, which is just like difference and like not having hierarchies, right? Like, and in a certain way, sometimes it hurts us in elections because we don't believe in hierarchies, and we don't sometimes like, have as many, we don't obey, right? Like even people at the top, like we started our talk by like kind of talking, shit about some of the Democrats and what they've done. And like Republicans don't fucking do that.
No,
They complain about each other in private, and then in public they agree. And then we agree with each other mostly in private, but then in public we're like, this person, Hillary Clinton would have bombed Iran, and like, which is all
yeah,
true. I do it, but it's funny.
yeah. I mean that's why our work I think is more difficult, right? Because we're
Yeah.
talking about change. When I was in law school, I had a class with Tim Kaine. He was my professor in law school.
Whoa. Cool.
And the class was called The Future of Equality. This was like 15
Yeah.
years ago now, 16 years. And so the concept was, what does the future of equal rights in this country look like? And the whole point was that every stage of struggle in this country was to expand the meaning of a human being, right? From
Mm.
like rich, wealthy, land owning white men to then you included, white women, and then, land owning women, then white women, and then women in general, and so on and so forth. And because every stage has been to that. And he goes, I fear that we're getting to a place, because you saw the Trumpism rise, that if this takes hold, we're going to be severely reversing. And it was very prophetic what you kind of called back then. But that's kind of where we've been
Mm.
now, right? That's what the struggle has
So
been,
true.
that these rights are being rescinded and pulled back. And so that's kind of what we're up against. And maybe that's a good place to kind of close the loop here. But that's
Yeah.
really what we're facing. To me, that's fundamentally the question here is, are we expanding access to human dignity and just the human experience, or are we restricting it and
Yeah.
making it exclusive? If we truly are a country of, the land of the free and the home of the brave, well, then it should expand access to it. Right now, we're not doing that, and that's I think the problem, the fundamental problem right now.
That's such a wow, I'm blown away. That is such a beautiful way to explain it. You're
Yeah.
right, like every policy comes back to that. And even when again you think about Medicaid or um cuts to programs, like it's still feeding into that idea, right? That like certain people deserve less, right? Like
But
based on uh again, like all kinds of different things that they had no choice in,
exactly.
whether it's race or gender or their level of ability and all that stuff. So
Right. That's right.
yeah, that's a beautiful way to put it.
Liz, how can folks support you? I hope I mean this. Everybody subscribe to her. Even if you can't be a paying
Subscribe to
subscriber, at least
you.
be a free subscriber and get her content, support her work. And I mean this
Thank
because
you.
like yeah, I mean this, the collapse of corporate media is pissing me off to no end, but that's why we need voices like Liz to be at the forefront. So please do
Thank
subscribe to her. But how
you.
can folks support?
I'm so grateful for you. I want everyone to go and subscribe to your newsletter, and all of your social accounts. Basically, you've seen him all over your feed. Go hit that follow button if you're not already following. Every time you're in my feed, I learn something new. And and you're so funny and witty. Like your Zoran content was so funny around like now South Asian like parents are going to be able to. And yeah, I love doing this live with you. I love also like I feel like this is fun. Like hopefully everyone's having fun. But I feel like we have a really great match of bringing together people who want to expand the notion of humanity. So yeah, my Substack is called Airplane Mode. My name is Liz Plank, and it has allowed me to go independent because of all of your subscriptions. It's like it's magical, isn't it? Right? Like
Yeah.
it's something I could have never imagined was possible like a few years ago. Even when Substack started, I was like, that's never gonna work. We're never gonna be able to like be stronger than the man. We're gonna always need a corporate, overlord. And like here we are, you're all powering our work and like directly allowing us to have this live, to do our reporting and writing. And I want to do more, hopefully we can do this again where I think people are really hungry for like, what do I do? And I would love to be able to use our like do something with this. Like we have 482 people on this live. Like
Yeah.
that's so many people.
Yeah.
That's like if we were outside, like that would be like local news would be here, be like, what's going on? Like
Yeah.
this must be important. So I would love to figure out like maybe there's an issue or a bill or like something we can like work together on with all of you. And so maybe you can actually like leave it in our comments or we can each start a thread on our I wish you could do joint threads, but yeah, maybe there's something we can work on and collab on that really gives people something to, because when you start doing something, it gets you out of that doom scrolling, apathy, scared, because you're doing, you're actually participating, and we still have a democracy ish, so we can still be civically engaged, and it does make a difference. And it's because of people like you that I believe we can. And we're so lucky to have you. You're just a wealth of knowledge and charisma all in one.
Feelings mutual. No, feeling is mutual, Liz. And I was gonna add that point you make, Liz, about channeling the anger into like action, that is so important. And
Yeah,
I want to make sure folks realize that as hopeless as it seems, it's not hopeless. We got to
it's
keep fighting.
not.
Yeah.
No, I mean, the Affordable Care Act just got saved, 100 times. That's not nothing. And, again, these protesters, that we talked about being like zip tied, people are seeing that it's changing people's minds. And these immigration raids, I'm sure have seen it on the news, people being like, I didn't think he would deport me. I didn't think he would deport my dad, my wife, it's making a difference. And I don't want that to be lost on anyone.
Next one we do, we'll do at midnight, and we're not gonna
Yeah,
announce it.
let's do a midnight one.
I'll
I'm so down. Okay, I'm so down. I'm
make it.
so down. I'm always just rotting in bed alone,
Yeah,
so
yeah, yeah.
might as
We'll make it
well
up.
rot in bed together.
That's what I'm saying. That's what I'm saying. It's no, I did it last time with Jahat, and it was hilarious. It was fine. It was
I'm
fantastic.
obsessed.
So
Okay,
we'll talk
nighttime
about it.
live, guys. Keep your email notifications on. You'll have
I,
a good email coming through for
I
once.
appreciate you so much. Keep crushing
I
it,
appreciate
and
you.
we'll do this again very soon. Okay.
Yes. Thank you, everybody. Have a great weekend.
Good guys.
Bye.